Welcome to the Highly Effective Man podcast, hosted by former Navy SEAL turned life and fitness coach. I'm your host, JP Bolwahnn. This podcast is your resource for unlocking the healthiest, most productive, and highly effective man within you. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Highly Effective Man podcast. So we're starting out 2026 a little bit different this year. All right, so this year, a lot of the topics that we'll be covering are also the same topics that I cover inside my He-Man Inner Circle, right? So that's the Highly Effective Man Inner Circle, where I do group coaching every week and cover different topics every week. But I've broken the training down into quarters this year. So expect that for 2026, there's going to be a lot of correlation between the weeks, and think of this as a training program, a year-long training program as far as this podcast goes. All right, so today we're going to talk about non-negotiables and what those are and why it's important to have those. Okay, because if you're tired of starting over, you feel like you're mentally drained, and you're constantly in a process of trying to make decisions, you might feel frustrated, then you need non-negotiables, okay? It's going to show you how to eliminate chaos and operate with real mental authority without relying on motivation. So the three big things we're going to talk about today is chaos. It's not laziness. It's reality. It's decision fatigue. Non-negotiables will eliminate negotiation and restore authority. And then number 3, standards over goals. Okay, and that's what makes a man reliable under pressure, is those standards. So a lot of guys think that, their problem is motivation. They think they got to wake up and be like, man, I got to feel inspired today. I got to get after it, right? Like, I need more intensity or a better plan or, just a cleaner start. But here's the real shift, okay? Your life doesn't fall apart because of a lack of effort, right? I rarely run into people who literally are just not trying in their lives, okay? But a lot of times it's because there's too many things that are optional in their life, right? And once you see that chaos is created through constant negotiation, discipline stops feeling heavy and starts feeling simple, right? So if you stop negotiating and you just do the thing you said you're going to do, things start getting simple, right? If you make the decision and you truly honor that decision, it's just going to happen, okay? High-performing men don't feel more motivated than you do, okay? They just don't argue with themselves, all right? They install the standards or the expectations that they have, and they live inside those, okay? So think about what mental authority is, okay? Mental authority is the ability to give yourself a command and execute without discussion, right? It's doing the thing that I said I was going to do when I said I was going to do it. There's no inner debate. There's no emotional bargaining. There's no renegotiation under stress, right? And that authority is built through non-negotiables, okay? And chaos isn't laziness, right? It's decision fatigue. So let me walk you through a moment that, almost anybody that's watching this video or listening to this podcast knows, right? It's late at night. You've probably had a long day. You're standing in the kitchen and you start having thoughts like, should I work out tomorrow? Maybe I'll start next week. You know what? I deserve a little treat. I was working hard today. I've had a long day. I deserve a break. It's nothing dramatic and nothing really catastrophic, but now you're tired, and not from the day, but from a lot of the mental noise that you've had throughout the day, right? That's the chaos. And chaos isn't your life falling apart. Chaos is the thousands of small decisions that you shouldn't really be making anymore, right? They should already be decisions that have already been made. So here's the principle that you need to understand, is that discipline isn't necessarily about just doing hard things. Discipline is about removing unnecessary decisions, right? So I'll say that again. Discipline isn't about doing hard things. Discipline is about removing unnecessary decisions. So when you don't have non-negotiables, every goal, every habit is optional, right? Every day requires some type of motivation or mindset reset. Every excuse sounds reasonable. But when you do have non-negotiables, there is no debate. There is no drama. There is no emotional tax. Okay? And mental authority comes from clarity plus enforcement. And you don't need more discipline. You just need fewer decisions, right? Because if you've already made those decisions, then there's less to make. Now, topic 2 is that non-negotiables is like TSA for your life, right? So think about airport security anytime you're traveling, right? You don't negotiate with TSA, right? You don't tell them like, hey, I don't feel like walking through your security line today, right? You don't explain your mood. You don't say, well, you know what? Sorry, I'm going to keep my shoes on today. And you don't ask for flexibility, right? You follow the standard because it's the standard. If you want to get on that flight, you have to follow the rules and do what they say and then get through it, right? So your non-negotiables are like TSA for your life. Your non-negotiables don't care about how you feel. They don't argue. They don't explain. They don't, they just enforce, right? And this is where a lot of guys get stuck, right? They want flexibility. But flexibility, that little flexibility that you want, is what's actually killing your authority and killing your ability to follow through. If your discipline depends on how you feel, you've handed control over to your emotions. And emotions are terrible leaders. And if you want mental authority, you need to have those TSA level rules and not suggestions. Now, standards are what make you reliable under pressure, okay? And let me put it into terms that everybody understands. Think about the guys you trust, right? The men in your life that you trust, the ones that you would call in an emergency, that you can rely on at work, that you want next to you when things go sideways. These men, they're not special. They're predictable, right? Not emotionally predictable, but behaviorally predictable. Okay? They do what they say they're going to do, especially when it's inconvenient. That's the difference. It's not talent, it's not genetics, it's not motivation, it's standards, right? Goals are intentions, standards are requirements, right? A goal say, I want to train more. I want to lose weight. Standards say, I train. This is who I am. And here's the truth. If your habits disappear under stress, they were never really habits or standards, right? They were preferences. And preferences will collapse under pressure or under stress every time. Standards create reliability. And reliability builds self-trust, builds confidence, builds leadership, and respect from others and yourself. So non-negotiables turn you into a man who can be counted on by your family, by your team, and your future self. Now, some of the mistakes that guys make are when they start doing non-negotiables. One, they try to do too many, right? Installing maybe 20 rules on day one. That's not discipline. Okay, that's self-sabotage, right? Just start with 3, right? Number 2 is that they don't have any kind of enforcement, right? A rule a rule that is like a consequence when they don't do it. So a non-negotiable or a rule without consequence is just a suggestion. And if nothing happens when you break that standard, then you're training yourself not to even listen to yourself. Mistake number 3 is letting your emotions or your mood take a vote, right? Your emotions should report, not decide, right? And when it comes to enforcement, ask yourself this: what happens when I break my own rule? It doesn't need to be extreme. It just needs to be immediate and meaningful. So some examples might be like, if I miss a workout, okay, maybe I do a mandatory walk that night. If I skip my morning routine, okay, maybe it's no social media for that day. If I break a nutrition rule, maybe I log it publicly. And this is exactly what we install in the Highly Effective Man Inner Circle. Real non-negotiables, real enforcement, real brotherhood. And it's for men who want personal structure, accountability, and standards installed at a deeper level. That's what we do. Okay. This week, the guys built their 3 non-negotiables, right? We're just starting with 3 and then we'll build it up from there. Okay. And then if you want more or something at a deeper level, then I have the Rebuild the Man, which is a VIP coaching one-on-one. Now, this is no hype, no guessing. It's just execution with me and the guys. Now, just to recap, discipline isn't about intensity. It's about decisiveness. The man who negotiates with himself is constantly leaking energy. The man who installs standards is preserving that energy. So another way to think about it is like, think about environments where standards actually matter, right? The firehouse, military, elite, professional teams, how they perform under pressure. There are rules that do not get debated. You don't ask, are we going to show up today? Are we going to skip prep because it's been a long shift? No, the standard already exists. And because the standard exists, men perform without drama, right? Without even having to think about it. That's what non-negotiables do for your life. They remove the debate. They remove the emotion. They remove the friction. And they turn execution into habit. And that habit turns into identity. So here's what I want you to do. Write down 3 non-negotiables for the next 30 days. And for each one, write down why it matters to you, what identity is it reinforcing, and what's going to happen if you break it. And then stop renegotiating. Okay, you cannot renegotiate those 3 rules for these next 30 days. And if you want to do this alongside the men that are in my group, then don't just talk about it. Join us inside the Highly Effective Man. Install the rules, enforce them, and operate with mental authority. Let's go. Thank you for listening to the Highly Effective Man podcast. If you enjoyed or learned something on this episode, do me a favor and share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. And one last thing, if you want to work with me as your coach to help you get fit, be more productive, and in general, just be the most effective version of yourself, head over to my site, higherlevelcoaching.co. Once again, that's higherlevelcoaching.co, and schedule a call with me there. Thank you again. Let's go.